In 2025, the Wall Street Journal reported that 23% of job seeking graduates from Harvard Business School were unable to land a job. This means that out of the 70% of graduates who actively sought out employment, nearly a quarter failed to find meaningful employment. The real results are probably even worse. Given the current economic climate, many graduates who did get a job are likely underemployed and underpaid. These statistics also sharply contrast with years prior. As recently as 2021, 92% of graduates looking for work accepted an offer. Perhaps the most damning evidence is the fact that the share of graduates with offers is lower than the COVID class of 2020. The MBA is dead as we know it. Historically, the MBA was seen as a peer to the JD or MD, as a way for aspiring professionals with a bit of work experience to move up the company faster, to lateral to a different industry, or for older executives and company founders, more as a way to rebrand and market themselves to investors. For those on the outside, the MBA has held this mystique as this kind of golden ticket to elite firms, high salaries, and valuable alumni networks. To MBA aspirants, these high tuitions were the price for opportunity, a chance to reapply to firms, to change industries, in order to increase their lifetime earnings. Other applicants are company sponsored, taking on the MBA as more of a career break, returning to their jobs after 2 years of rest and relaxation. Ultimately, what the MBA gives a student is status, prestige granted through association to a university's brand. It's why many graduates end up working in consulting, where optics and superficial credibility matter as much as actual expertise. The MBA isn't simply a degree. It's a signal, a stamp of approval that ascribes a degree of competence and intelligence to the degree holder. Given its ubiquity, the school granting the MBA serves as a rough approximation of the quality of the job candidate, easily comparable across candidates across a hiring process, and allowing for the creation of a hiring pipeline parallel to bachelor's holders in fields like consulting, finance, and tech. Firms could streamline recruitment by targeting top MBA programs, confident that graduates had been pre-vetted for intelligence, ambition, and business acumen. For many people, it's this chance to be hired for a lucrative corporate role that has made the degree worth paying for. Unfortunately, as we're seeing now, even for the top graduates from the best schools, that promise is becoming more tenuous than ever. Today, MBA hires are down across the board. This is happening for several reasons. During COVID, companies significantly overhired. As economic conditions tightened, firms shifted their focus to cost cutting, leading to hiring freezes and smaller analyst class sizes. This helped them realize one thing, that profits could be maintained with slower growth in headcount. Traditional firms across banking, tech, and consulting realized that leaner teams wouldn't necessarily compromise profit growth. Most, if not all of these companies still have continually rising profits, but since COVID, have also gone down a stricter path of profit maximization, one that involves hiring below pre-COVID levels. We can see this through what's been called the white-collar job recession, which has contributed to the decline in available roles. Companies have tightened their belts, flattening their organizations of middle managers like associates. Given the stricter hiring environment, what's considered qualified has changed. With fewer roles available, companies can afford to be choosier. This is particularly evident with the humanities degree, which includes MBAs, where knowledge gained often doesn't directly align with the practical skills required on the job. At their best, humanities degrees teaches you how to think, how to read and process complex amounts of information, and then apply that knowledge in a meaningful way. But this comes with a problem. How can you tell who's actually knowledgeable, who's actually qualified? Historically, employers would have made this guess based on your school's ranking, equating difficulty in getting in with the quality of education, and by extension, the quality of the graduate. MBAs in turn have hedged for this perceived lack of utility, with brochures across the world's best business schools, including the same set of buzzwords, like experiential learning, practical and theoretical knowledge, cross-disciplinary, broad-based learning, and real-world application. But the reality is that the MBA's value derives primarily from its parent institution, not the performative coursework. With hiring ambitions more limited, recruiters tend to hire only those with related experience, or at the very least, have education that is specific rather than tangentially related to the role. What these diminishing hiring rates illustrate is the pipeline of hiring based on educational prestige becoming decoupled, with tuition running in the hundreds of thousands, and job opportunities for those genuinely applying blind becoming limited. An MBA is quickly turning into a vanity degree. Its value has been lowered for working professionals looking to get a foot in the door, and rather as a means for corporations to rebrand their employees, or for wealthy scions to bolster their status before running their family empires. The fall of the MBA is indicative of a fundamentally different job market. It's becoming harder than ever to be hired. Companies are picky beyond reason, and having the right credentials is increasingly disconnected from getting a job. And what was historically seen as a rite of passage to success is increasingly becoming outdated. For workers, this has led to a job market that's frozen. Nobody's quitting, and barely anyone is getting hired. For the universities running these programs, it has forced them to adapt. Many business schools are diversifying, offering new cash cow programs to recent graduates like masters in finance and management, leveraging their reputations to charge similarly high tuition prices. Others are reducing their perceived risk. For self-funded applicants, it's a huge gamble. 2 years of tuition and cost of living, along with 2 years of zero salary. For sponsored students, it's still 2 years of no income. This fact has led to the rise of accelerated MBAs, programs with 1 year rather than a 2-year timeline, lowering costs in terms of both time and money. The precipitous fall of the MBA was predictable. What concerns me is what it signals about the broader economy and the shifting nature of work. If even the most prestigious degrees are losing their value, it raises deeper questions about the future of professional careers. Whether we are moving towards a job market that is increasingly mercurial, where job candidates can't rely on their credentials and instead must apply in high volumes, or whether we are simply in a transitory period of extreme hiring conservatism. What I can say for sure to prospective MBA applicants is this: if the opportunity cost doesn't matter, that is to say you're company sponsored or independently wealthy, you want to take a break, want to enjoy the experience, or want to have an extra sheet of paper framed in your room, then by all means go for it. But if you're taking on loans or paying significantly out of pocket, maybe instead stay in that job, work a couple more years, try to apply directly to the industry you want to pivot to instead. The traditional MBA pathway no longer guarantees the same returns. And if you have a job, continue to gain work experience instead, and you'll likely be on better footing without it.